Good evening and welcome. Centre Spot UK TV, and we are obviously outside Old Trafford, as promised, as the sun sets. But as the sun sets, Mike, is it a dawning of a new day or a new era?
Have you like planned this for the sunset to happen so you could use that line?
That's why I've kept it in the house all day.
It's pretty beautiful, really, isn't it?
It's actually kind of like nicer looking at it from the other side of the camera, but yeah, as it goes over town. So yes, as promised, this is not an elaboration of Manchester United. This is not me doing my equivalent of the Odyssey of Bolton Wanderers, as much as I am in the Centre Spot Manchester United sweatshirt, and why not, because I'm a Red. But what we are going to talk about quite openly and without bias is obviously Manchester United. 19 years in the hands of the Glazers, 2003 coming in with a minority shareholding, buying off McManus, and obviously we could blame Fergie for that, but we won't. Yeah, this is the year which everything changed, and that didn't change with an FA Cup win. That to me wasn't the most important thing this season, Mike, because at the start of this season, I remember telling you, this season I'm not really that bothered about the Premier League, which wasn't a bad thing, finishing 8th. I was more bothered about how we were going to change and maybe kick on in this season. Very embryonic, not a clue where it's going to go. We've still got a long way to go yet, but
yeah. I mean, you know, as Simon rightly says, this isn't a pro Manchester United video. We wanted to do this like we did with the City video a couple of weeks ago about the charges that they're facing. The whole point of this video, and based on some of the comments we've had on Facebook and what have you, about potentially doing the video, which we are doing now, has been, it's funny because you mentioned the words Manchester United and so many people just came and had their opinion or their rivalry opinion, plenty sensible ones, which we'll read out in a bit, but plenty that were just hatred, I suppose, weren't they?
I don't know, yeah, granted, and I understand that, being a Red as long as I have, and I'm sure if there's anyone watching from Liverpool, we have this kind of like unique status and this unique standing that everyone's got an opinion on their football club, everyone's got an opinion on the national team, and everyone has an opinion on Manchester United and Liverpool, and Arsenal to a lesser extent. So yeah, whenever you do mention our name, it does evoke, and it does for all those other clubs. That's just part of it. It's just part of football. But what I would like to say is there was some very good comments on there. The ones that weren't so kind, do you think I've never heard them before? So yes, let's keep on tack. I am not here as a United fan. I am here to discuss about
we spoke in the car on the way up, and the fact that I said to you that there seems to be, you can't really support anyone without getting someone slagging you off for it, and we were saying that maybe the idea of Centre Spot and allowing people to come on and talk about football in general is, why can't we just enjoy the game? Doesn't necessarily mean you have to hate teams. We're just actually discussing the game itself, and like we're doing Manchester United today, we're talking about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. How much is it? 27%? You say it was 28%.
It's currently set at 28, and it's quite interesting because everyone's like, "Oh, how's he going to get total ownership of the club?" And as I mentioned, 2003, I think they had in the high teens at the time, Glazers, and as I say, because McManus sold his share, that allowed him to snowball. The actual share of United is 11% independent, and the other 40-odd%, I think, as it works out, is with the Glazers. It only takes a Glazer to sell.
Of course it does, yeah.
And to get the majority. That's a long way off. That's a pipe dream for us all United fans. But really, I think what is important is the football side has gone to Jim, and already those changes are made. I am not going to get carried away and start coming out with crap like United will win a title in 5 years, or I don't know how long it will take, because around Manchester United doing that, it's like the world stopped turning. Aston Villa are still, doing something. Newcastle are doing something. City's stronghold, very hard to depose. They're looking very much like United were in the 90s and 2000s, and unfortunately no one's going to do what happened to us with the Glazers. So City are around for a long time. Get used to it. Liverpool, okay, they're in a change and a transition, but that could go the Moisey way, or it could go like Liverpool have shown countless times in their history, an easy transition from one manager to another.
I think, like we said, it's the transition word, which seems to be the case for quite a few clubs in the Premier League, which generally doesn't happen, does it? I mean, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but United obviously are going through a transition with a new owner, or part owner, new signings, new ground, talking about Liverpool obviously having lost Jurgen Klopp and they've got a new manager. That might take a couple of years because Klopp did that to do the same. The only difference being that Arne Slot's inherited a brilliant squad in comparison to the one Klopp inherited. But it's very similar in the way Moyes took over. I'm not comparing Ferguson to Klopp, obviously, but it's similar to that in the fact that David Moyes has had to come in and go, big shoes to fill. But like we said, Aston Villa, they've got the Champions League stuff to deal with. Man City, is it Pep's last year, like he's mentioned? Is it De Bruyne's last year?
Yeah.
Arsenal might be thinking, this could be the best opportunity we've got now to take advantage where people have got a bit of a...
I would have thought so. They've cut the teeth in the last 2 seasons, mate. They've been there or thereabouts, and they don't seem to have been dropping. I did actually see, what's that fella, Goldstein, on TalkSport, but he turned around, I don't know whether you've seen it today, he was on there saying the Arsenal Invincibles weren't that good. And he pointed out a few draws, one of them being to Bolton Wanderers. I'm not being funny. He went through a season unbeaten. That's
unheard of.
How can you say that?
You don't do that anymore, do you?
How can you say that? Oh, it wasn't a great way of being. You're invincible. You're invincible. Yeah, it's like knocking City's tally point. The Centurions and all that. How can you say, well, it's good, bad, or it's just there and it's not being done?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to criticise anything. That goes back to what I said. Why does everything have to be criticised regardless? I know the certain teams and certain fan bases hate certain teams like Manchester City, Liverpool, hate Manchester United, the Leeds and Manchester United rivalry, Portsmouth, Southampton, what have you. But at the end of the day, things are set like the Invincibles. Things are in history and in place. That was an incredible achievement. And everyone just seems to have the ability, just want to be able to pick at whatever they can.
But it goes back to a little bit of what we said at Preston, isn't it? That instant gratification in football, that expectation of, you've kicked off, right, okay, we've got a full tournament to go, but I know it's coming home.
Yeah.
Where's your expectation in that? And I think, we're not philosophers, mate.
Sometimes we can be.
I think very deeply. But I would like to think that football can sort of like turn a corner from this kind of like, oh, you support that, I've got to hate you, and I've got to say that your club's shit and your players are shit, and it's like, why? It's football at the end of the day. I guess what we have to do is bring it back to what we were meant to be here for. Yeah,
so we're talking about whether this is, as you said, the beginning of the beginning, or the beginning of the end of the Glazers, or is it... I mean, we've got to also mention the fact that the reason it was your suggestion about centre spot was your disaffection with the current ownership of Manchester United.
Yeah, guess we've never
and that's
said
why
that.
That's why we kind of set the whole thing up, was to stop people potentially putting money into the club that they don't want the Glazers to get hold of, and have a clothing range where you can still show off the colours and coordinates of your home, like, subscribe, share, check the website, all the clobber.
I might take these off now, Mike. It's getting a bit dark.
It is really.
Mid-August and summer's slipping away.
It's and that's the reason we initially set this company up and this whole journey.
Yeah, I think to just put a bit of clarity on that, Mike. The reason was, as we can see there's the mega store. Is it?
Yep.
It's changing. What's with all those seats there? Yes, well, there's the mega store, and sold on to Adidas to make all the profits and a nice little carve up between Glazer and all the rest of it. Shirts going extremely expensive and going lying in their pockets. I didn't want to do it.
No.
Many of us didn't. Some have, we've covered FC United. They dealt it the way that they've dealt it. A few have gone over to Salford City, obviously because of the 92 connection. I'm hoping that it's now beginning to disappear. That sort of sentiment. And now it's maybe time for those that wish to come home, feel good about coming home to it. Because I'm just going to kind of like run through here. Let's have a look at the change of what's happened. Football-wise.
Run with it, Simon.
Well, that was the bit that needed to change. Football-wise, yes, obviously we've spent some stupid money on players which are being picked by people who probably couldn't have picked a decent side out of my 70s Subbuteo set. They'd have probably picked that fella, with the Bostik gammy glue who always used to kind of like run around in circles that your dad stood on when he left the pitch out. I'm now going to sort of like make reference to Terry Hall from the Specials.
Go for it.
Famous Manchester United fan. This is the dawning of a new era by the Specials. So what are we looking at? Omar Barada comes in, Manchester City.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that
how
was a
Manchester
big coup,
City
wasn't
get
it?
there.
Yeah.
Dan Ashworth, after is he on garden leave, are we going to pay him, are we not going to pay him, etc. We get Dan Ashworth from Newcastle United. Gary O'Driscoll, Arsenal,
Okay.
for the medical staff. How many injuries did we get? Plenty last season. Was there something going on there? I know poor old Eric Ten Hag got all the grief for it.
There was a couple more this summer, isn't there? As well?
Well, yeah, okay. There's still maybe something going on there. Jason Wilcox, taken from Southampton. And also the return of Rude. Nothing against McLaren there, but I think getting Rude in there, if you're not really performing, Marcus Rashford, and I'm not picking on Marcus Rashford at all, still think he's got a lot to offer us. If you're not performing, he's going to bring it out of you. Rude van Nistelrooy or Steve McLaren?
Well, one of the best strikers.
I'm not knocking Steve McLaren.
No, but one of the best strikers in the Premier League history for me, Ruud van Nistelrooy. It is common knowledge that I'm a Bolton fan, but also
you're a football fan.
Don't actually mind Manchester United at all.
But you like your strikers as well.
Yeah,
you are one.
Exactly. And Super Sundays for me were built on Manchester United. You know, watching Sir Alex Ferguson's teams, Beckham, who was one of my favourite all-time players. You know, Giggs, Scholes, Keane. Now your Super Sundays are, no disrespect, but not as glorified, are they? They're not as glorious to watch because
you're not watching as many with me because we're not that super anymore.
True.
But what I was getting to there, sorry, I'm interrupting.
That's all right. No, it's fine. I've kind of, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is that personnel changing that you're bringing in, I think for a long time United have thought, well, they'll be quite good, or we hope that they're going to be good, and let's give it a bit of time and see. I'm still saying give it time and see. We're a long way from a finished article. I think we've actually got the brakes on as opposed to going into reverse. Let's see if we can get the car going forward.
Yeah.
But those people coming in, your class is prestige.
I mean, like you say,
you're not
Ruud
second fiddle settling.
No,
anymore.
you're not. And you're pulling people from Manchester City, you know, from Newcastle, teams who have got Saudi backers who are ploughing money into it. And is that because of the heritage of Manchester United, or do they know that what's about to take place with the new ground and the investment Sir Jim Ratcliffe might make?
I think that's definitely for
There's
sure.
Obviously, you know, that project word I've mentioned before. They've sat down with him, he's laid out the plans, and they've gone, do you know what? It's Manchester United, I want to be part of it, I'm interested.
Interesting you should say that, because we've had problems attracting players for a long time. If I'd have looked at that backroom staff, I'd have thought, what am I going joining here?
Yeah.
If I'm coming joining, give me a load of money. That's certainly curtailed off.
Yeah.
The money, the big amount of money, okay, we'll always have to pay for players. There's no shock in that. You are coming to Manchester United. But I think for the past few years, players have come as though, like, I'll come for the money. I think there's now beginning to be that evolution again of, like, if I get this right with him, I can be, you obviously can't say, I can be one of these legends. I can be something at this club.
Yeah.
United, let's not hide it. I am not being blind, and I don't want to talk about what's been won because it's an awful long time ago. It is, again, feeling a little bit like the early 90s of, like, the duration that we haven't won anything is weighing heavy on us. Okay, we won an FA Cup. I myself was expecting to get battered.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
The boy was. I mean, the boy behind the camera was actually weeping for about half an hour after it, tears of joy. But that, to me, wasn't the competition last season. Last season, the competition for me was this. There was two owners that could have taken us. I didn't really bother which one, so long as they started moving them lot out.
Yeah.
That's happened. Our competition, our main competition last year was probably somewhere up there. Not on the pitch.
Yeah.
It was getting control and wrestling away from those buggers.
Yeah.
If that happened and we'd have finished 10th and not won anything, that, to me, would have been
a successful
season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The fact that we did show up for an FA Cup, I don't think City were on the best, I will be honest to them.
No, but as well...
that's the kind of like how it sometimes goes, isn't it?
Yeah, and it
gives
you
a celebration.
I mean, we're looking at a picture of Ten Hag over there. Whilst there are, and certainly we'll read a few comments out from the Facebook. Go for it. Pan round, show the lovely people who are watching, all the glorious legends that are obviously happy to show off, because there are obviously an incredible amount of legends who played for Manchester United,
including those two players, Burger and Fries.
At least they've got minerals.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll read a few comments out now, because what the key thing here is, and one of the best comments for me, if I can find it quickly, because I did tell him that we would give him a shout out, was Daryl King.
Yep.
On our Facebook post, and I had a quick conversation with him. His comment is that there's still work to be done, but to get people to recruit and to get people to help Eric Ten Hag out is great. And the signings of Yoro and Xerxes are a great boost, but we still need a striker that can help the kids out, midfielder of class that can play anywhere in midfield, and a centre-back to replace Varane. Done better than the Glazers ever done already.
Yeah.
So I replied to him and said, obviously think about the class of 92. Like, they had a supremely talented older group of players to help them. You know, like you had Scholes come in and he had Roy Keane, and you had David Beckham, you had
Dennis Irwin,
Lee Sharp helping Ryan Giggs. Yeah. You know, you had Eric Cantona helping, not class 92, but Andy Cole when he came in, and you had that kind of thing. And you've got to look at now Mainu and Hoyland and Garnacho do need, whether it is from the coaching staff or players, to help them grow. Because there's certain matches last season I was watching Mainu almost having to do it on his own, and the lads, he's been playing properly professional at this level for 5 months, 6 months. Yeah.
Do you not remember when we were in Ireland?
Wasn't it?
St.
For
Pat's
Liverpool,
Day? He turned up on that,
and then he turns up for England. You know, but as Daryl rightly says, there's got to be the kind of, you look at how Robson helped the younger lads when they were coming through in 92. You know, you've got to have that. And Van Nistelrooy is potentially that one that will help Hoyland. And if the rumours are to be true that Ivan Toney's one that the United are looking at now, it's a player who's done the Premier League for a few years, done it successfully. And that's kind of the way it needs to go. But there is the right movement. And like you say, they are doing more now. The right things are being done now. Yeah. There's nothing technically negative happened since Sir Jim took over what he's got.
It is interesting what you say there, though, that gap of who's in the squad to support a player coming through. I mean, obviously, City have got that at the moment. They have, and they've sold quite a high-profile prospect, or look like they're going to sell. They obviously know why they're doing it. Yeah. Smacks of when we got rid of Kinchelskis and we got rid of Vincent. I was like, what are you doing? Obviously, the club knows, and to get to that point again where you can buy one player in and it'll make a difference and one out, and maybe a season where you have a bit of a clear out, you need that consistency. And let's have a look at as to what they've actually done here. I'm having a look at who was classed as an arrival coming in start of this season. So you got there Lenny Yoro, obviously injured. Zerke, injured. Jadon Sancho, come back. Is he friends? That's about as obvious as what we're talking about now. Let's see. Let's hope so. Let's always hope for the development on that. And
there's a rumour there that I said to you that he's rejected PSG. Don't know if that's confirmed as of yet, but whether he likes what he sees and thinks.
Mason obviously had to move out for whatever reason. We're not even going down that route. Hannibal.
He's back now, isn't he?
These are who's come back. I'm going to go as departed for you. Okay. Palestri. Nice to see Palestri come back. I have hope for Palestri, always have had. Carreras and Donny van der Beek. So as we have a look at that, who's actually gone out? Out of that, you've lost Mason. Camboala's gone. Carreras has gone.
Camboala's a strange one for me.
I thought so. Especially being as we had more defensive combinations last season than a safe.
Yeah.
Well, spoil that sec.
I'm just going to go and check the mic, check the cam, just to be on the safe side.
Control yourself now, son. Well, he's young, he's vibrant, he's okay.
What about the players that we brought in and got rid of? So Lenny Arrow's injured. Got rid of Camboala. Got rid of Varane. The only fit ones we've got.
We didn't get rid of Varane.
Varane had to go. Contract's expired or whatever.
Yeah.
But the only fit centre backs we've got going into
You are talking about like injury-wise fit. Yeah, you're not like saying, God, he's fit.
No. Got to Garnacho later.
And you're worried about where I might go. Anyhow, go on.
Anyway,
safer just to get it in first.
Signing Yoro, who's injured. Camboala and Varane have gone. The only fit players we've got going into the season for centre backs are Martinez, Maguire, and Lindelof.
And Johnny Evans.
Yeah.
And Lindelof, there was talk of Lindelof going at some point, wasn't there? And
But the thing is to, as I just said then, gone are the days of where you'd bring in a couple of 3 players. That's now the territory of Arsenal, that's the territory of City. It's established. We're not established, and that's where we've got to not get carried away with this. It started at the top. We're beginning to understand football. A club like Manchester United, to understand football, a bit frightening, but that always comes at a cost. It always came at a premium. If United wanted somebody, you were going to have to pay money for it. It's a bit of the reverse of what we've had over the past few years. You're absolutely in free fall. You're going to have to pay to try and claw your way back.
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Now it's kind of like flip the other way around. You're going to have to pay to start building, and we are going to have to pay to start building. But we need to stop the silly wages, the protraction of contracts, and we can understand that's the PSR kind of ruling of it. But I don't care if it takes longer to get to where we should be, so long as we're not in reverse and free fall. That's my important part.
I mean, we're talking about money and transfers, but there's a rather large elephant in the room this week about the fact that you were given special dispensation and more money than every other club during COVID. And then you've also been, was it something like a 25 million allowance because of the transfer? Yeah, something like that,
40.
where you had an allowance because you've had this share purchase, but that's the Glazers' fund to pay, surely. So why have the Premier League or the FA, whoever it was, Premier League probably, who've gone, it's all right, we'll let that one slide? Because that's, again, causing controversy with clubs who are being forced, like Leicester, who are potentially on a minus points deduction, because they're not sure what from their 2022-23 season when they're in the Premier League last. You've also got Newcastle having to sell 2 highly rated youngsters just to try and get through PSR and get balanced. It's that City thing where something's been released, information, and no one knows why, and no one knows what it's about, but it's that sensationalism of Manchester United have been given 45, 50 million, whatever, grace. Why?
Is that journalism that's brought it out, or is that, again, the toothless tiger of the Premier League? I can't answer that any different as to how we discussed again about City. Make the rules and the policies and the procedures clear, Premier League. And if United have done it, United need to take the hit for it.
Yeah.
If we have done it, and at this moment it looks like we're...
We can't be biased, can we?
But let's face it, they've allowed it to happen. Now, that's not fair. We go back again to Forest and Everton. They've allowed that to happen. That shouldn't have happened. United are the same as any other club. But it comes back down to the brand. Now, you know, we'll go back to Serie A, chucking out Juve, you know, French league, chucking out Marseille, the big names of it. That did have a massive effect on the brand of Serie A, but it's levelled up their game. Okay, there's no AC Milan running away with it or whatever as it was. But their game's levelled up and their league's levelled up, and it's beginning to come up. And again...
So you're saying that you think that that's kind of what will happen to the Premier League in maybe 2 or 3 years, where teams are getting punished, and then...
With this lot, no, I don't.
And then they go...
I actually think they've no bottle. And that's why I sort of agree with City how they're dealing with it, by going, you've left it too long, you've no bottle. I'll tell you what, as I say, put in the corner, they were like, oh, what do we do? Actually, there's no teeth to these lot.
No, that's true. So does that? What do you think that's because the Premier League and now teams are just flaunting the rules because they go, Premier League are going to do nothing about this?
Look at Chelsea. They just signed Pedro Neto.
Yeah.
Agreed to sign Pedro Neto, another 45-man squad.
I know.
Into the season.
Nearly. That's what happens when we lose Rob. I've caught it. You two carry on.
We'll carry on. Yeah. Are you keeping on it?
I'll keep on this camera.
You can still shout from behind the camera.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll throw some more comments out. And you two can give us your...
That's an easy place to stand from, mate, but go on, carry on.
So, Lloyd Gray, football and most other popular sports at what is termed the highest level have and has become nothing more than a good business investment for the super rich. It extracts what little the poor have in order to feed the elite in an upward motion. Our obsession with our beloved teams is the hook. It's used to reel us in. It's industry. It's no longer sport for the working class.
I think that's happened for a long time, and I think that's as soon as Sky came in. I don't think that's especially fair to those clubs at the lower end of the Premier League or that haven't had the time to develop those revenues, but I think that's pretty much what you're saying there. And United being given, if United have been given that dispensation, it's wrong. Because you can't, but that's them protecting the brand, and it goes back to, as I said, you know, as soon as that BT and TNT Sport thing was BT and Sky TNT Sport thing was signed, every single club in the Premier League became the richest club. I don't know. That's it's kind of like switching. It almost brings a conversation itself. And as I said, when we did the City one, it's not so much about City. Obviously, they're the profile that we picked on or that we chose. But this is going to go, because the Premier League have no control on it, and they're not being clear. There's no clarification. So until that happens, anybody. But that's the indecision as well. Anyone could get caught to this.
Yeah.
Intentionally, unintentionally, favours, brown envelopes, no favours, whatever. Until they actually get a grip on it, anybody could be slapped. Anybody could be
fair point.
Given freedoms.
Rob, I'll let you field this one. Gary Twist says it's Ten Hag I'm still unsure about.
I think he's probably the best manager we've had since Fergie left, and
in terms of
everything, just his attitude.
I mean, you've had some high-profile managers, haven't you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. We can't just always go for like Mourinho.
Yeah.
For example, like his football's so outdated, and it looked promising at the start, but then we started to go back to that square one route that we went with Van Gaal, back end of Moyes.
It's crazy to think you've had Manchester United have had Louis Van Gaal, Jose Mourinho,
Moyes,
big names in the world of football, and still couldn't turn it around. Couldn't really do a great deal.
I think if they were supported by people who knew less about stocks and shares as opposed to football, I think some of them could have done better. I think Ollie would have had a better chance. I think with Eric, he's come in with nowhere near the expectation that the previous managers had come in, and I think that sort of like gave them a little bit of leeway as to, well, if he's rubbish, that's not really our fault.
Yeah.
It's not rubbish in the slightest, and I think, last season was unlucky, and I think I'd be looking to the medical staff there, which has interestingly been changed. The medical staff has changed. I always remember in the 90s, physio friend who I was talking to him about when Liverpool had a lot of Achilles and a lot of ankles injuries, and he said they'd worked it out. They'd been running on treadmills, so the motion of running forward and dragging back, that's what was giving it. And these are the fine margins that you're talking. So if your medical staff aren't getting players fit, that makes Eric look like it's down to him. But
it's also going to raise questions on how poorly they've been run and what kind of training they've had, really.
Well, I suppose that goes back to what you said about the changes you've made in the backroom staff as well. You're not just making changes on the pitch. Sir Jim's gone, even like the canteen and all that, he's thinking...
Well, he's done at the tunnel as well, haven't we? We've done at the tunnel.
Well, they had to change that because players didn't want to shower before they went on the pitch, did they?
Are we actually basing this off the tunnel that the players come out of? No, but what I was going to say about the Ten Hag thing, listen, it's a very lonely place to be when you've got nobody above you to actually discuss and talk about what you should be doing, what you could be doing. He doesn't have to bother now about who he's bringing in, and that's the way it goes. Pep Guardiola doesn't have to worry about who he's bringing in. He's a coach.
Yeah.
If those professional decisions are made by a hierarchy which are supporting a manager, they can bring in those players. If you've got the top coach, he'll get the best out of them. But when you're trying to run everything,
that's where Dan Ashworth comes in, I suppose.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
So we'll just reel off a few more comments, see if either of you want to make a comment. Glenn Jones, mid-table finish this year, no trophies.
Possibly.
As long as the work's being done properly behind the scenes, would you be happy with that, both of you?
If the ridiculous state of getting thrashed one week and putting up a decent performance against higher opposition altered, you've got to take that as progress. You
don't want inconsistency though. Like, I'm not expecting us to beat everyone 3-4-0 every game, but even if
that's what I mean. If the performances,
but like I'm not slagging them off, but losing 4-0 to Crystal Palace, and it's probably like the worst game we've played all season. Like, not just the scoreline, just performance-wise, we're appalling.
Yeah,
I don't know. There was a few games that we played really bad all season. That was a highlight, but yeah.
But to go to Selhurst Park midweek and lose 4-0.
You're right. It was the performance, though, wasn't it?
It's not just the scoreline or the team. It's the performance.
Chris Ewans, what New Dawn? They're still messing around on transfer targets. go and get them before another club comes in for them. Just what happened with Elise.
I think what's because obviously Chris is right there, and I can understand that a transfer window is always difficult when you've got an international tournament in the middle of it. But I don't think the answer is wholesale, sort of like massive changes. Yeah, there's players that need to move out, but do they necessarily need wholesale replacement? Because you could actually destabilise what's going on. We've got a lot of academy lads coming through, and I think they deserve the chance to come through, which is why I'm not focused on a top 4 finish. I'm looking at improvement. I want improvement in games.
Is that incremental gains we talked about?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. It's build. You know, it's instant gratification. By the end of this season, I want to see it 100% change. You're not going to get that. You're just not going to get that in football anymore. 4 or 5 years to look back, and I'm a little bit wary of that because I'm not getting any younger. I'd like to see them come back. There's every opportunity. I might slip off this mortal coil before it happens, but
Jesus,
I know it's a bit heavy, it's a bit dark, it's summer, I can say that. It's just development. You just want to see it moving in the right direction. I believe it's moved in the right direction, but tomorrow we play a Community Shield game. Week after, we start the season.
It's Friday night, isn't it? Is it full?
Yeah. Of course it is. That's how you start the season. 8 o'clock, I believe.
Listen, Bolton are starting the season at 5:30 tomorrow. Anyway,
I do wish it wasn't focused around TV.
Sunday next weekend, isn't it?
Bolton, against Sky, right, Robert, I'll put this one towards you. John Preedy says, which I have mentioned to you both, and it does, and I replied with the words, releasing a world-class goalkeeper and spending that kind of money will always be one of life's great mysteries, like the Loch Ness Monster. John Preedy says, why aren't we in the market for a new keeper? He's probably our worst player and seems the only undroppable player.
I mean,
let's focus on what I replied.
What did you reply?
I love De Gea. Why would you release a goalkeeper of his calibre and then spend 60+ million on a keeper who is probably he's not as good, in my opinion?
I was absolutely baffled when I saw it. Like, he had a really good end to the season, probably our best player. Did he win Player of the Season?
He won it about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, but I think he won Player of the Season that season, and for him to go out the blue, like without a goodbye or anything, was so random. Like the passion that he had for the club as well, like the amount of time he spent at the club, and you don't even get a goodbye.
I think it was the case. I mean, John then goes on to say we keep going on these football pages about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who is arguably our best defender, but nothing about the goalkeeper. It speaks volumes about bias to me. It's got to be annoying for many people like me.
Well, can I answer that as a defender?
Of course you can.
Former defender. If your goalkeeper,
you meant like a defender,
like a Land Rover.
Yeah.
Bulky, maybe huge wheels. No, as a defender, listen, a goalkeeper only gets left in limbo by what his defence is doing in front of him. When Dave was having his shakiest moments, the defence was very shaky, very, very shaky. I think again they needed a scapegoat that season. Quite why to sell David De Gea after a few high-profile mistakes, but everyone makes high-profile mistakes.
With all the other.
You're a striker and you make a few gaffes and you don't score the bloody goal. It's like you don't tend to get
as a goalkeeper, you make a mistake. It more often than not ends up in a goal.
And also, it can cost your team the game.
But let's also forget that also your goalkeeper now is meant to be a sweeper. Centre backs aren't even sweepers anymore, are they? They're not allowed to be, really. You don't really get them playing.
Well, like Dick Van Dijk.
Hey, chimney. So there was that expectation of change. And it's funny, you're talking Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka is a defender, out-and-out defender. He's a top draw. He's not a winger. So now you get rid of him because he's not a winger, but he's a fullback.
Yeah.
He's an out-and-out fullback. He can't attack, but at defending, he's just... We've seen it so many times, that PSG game in lockdown.
But trends of coaching, and it's like everybody jumps on the tiki-taka bus and everyone has to play at that, and then, it's sort of like apparently 4-4-2 is so disastrously unfashionable. Yeah, you see a lot of 4-4-2 still in the lower leagues, don't you? Why? Because it's a way to set up. This is what I mean. We're back to the instant gratification. This is fashion. This is what it's meant to be. David De Gea leaving Manchester United as he did without even a goodbye, and the fact he's not had a contract yet.
We just got one at Fiorentina, hasn't he? So
that has got to be the biggest mystery. Yeah, no, but an entire season without going anywhere.
He's had loads of sniffles from clubs.
So
who's that?
De Gea.
Yeah.
Lots of clubs have come calling.
But also, let's move that now to Onana. Yeah. I remember Fabian Barthez coming in, high profile, but also a shot stopper and stuff. He's a little bit crazy. He's only going to get better. Coaching around him will make sure he's better. But again, and I'll go back to it. You didn't even like the gag last time, right? There's been more combinations at the back of Manchester United than on a safe. So, how is a goalkeeper going to settle and steady with that?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Again, there isn't anything tried and tested about Manchester United going into this season. I am going in with a curious optimism. I have to be optimistic. I support them, but don't expect anything overnight. The battle that has been won is not on a pitch yet, and we're nowhere near showing it on a pitch.
Going back to what you said about Onana, like,
What's my name? Sorry. Carry on.
Have you got a red card on you? They'll fall over if we sack him. Go on.
Well, he even said himself on an interview that how can someone go from the best keeper in the world to the worst keeper in the world after winning, what was it, keeper... Golden Glove in the Champions League final.
That's quite easily answered, coming to a highly underachieving football club. That's how that can happen.
No, but even at Ajax, he was a really good goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
become a really bad player overnight.
We'll have another couple of quotes before we wrap this thing up. Sean Worley, let's see how they are performing in the Premier League and in the Europa League around December or January before, and hopefully they'll win another trophy under Ten Hag. John Preedy, we've already mentioned, says that will be too late by Christmas. We could be left with nothing. And would you trust our keeper? He's got a right being his bonnet about.
The first comment, I 100% agree on. I don't think Manchester United right now are in the mood for sacking a manager halfway through a season. Certainly not one that was he eaten alive by the club not coming out with a statement? Was he eaten alive by the media? I don't know. Fact of it is he's been given at least another year. There's a lot that will change at the club if we start seeing progress in games, and that doesn't mean going up the table. I'm not really bothered about winning anything this season. I just want to see the progress. I want to see the ship steadied, and I want to see the development of the kids coming through, as opposed to us. And Palestri being one of them. I would like to see Palestri.
He stopped sending him out on loan.
Well, I think I mentioned it before. Kambwala, I think that's a strange one. That for me.
Well, it is why we need a defence. Yeah.
We'll have another couple. Bradley Mickey says, my opinion is it will take a few seasons for Ineos to sort this out, the mess the previous clowns have left.
Yeah.
Leslie Graham Baker, quite funny, says you sound like Starmer. Leslie Jones, open mind, see how they all settle in and play as a team instead of highly paid individuals.
That's like you said before, like, it can't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, was it?
Yeah, but Sir Jim wasn't on that job.
I may cause controversy within Manchester United here. Listen, there's a lot of Manchester United fans that follow United for what we've been and what we've done. There's a lot of Manchester United fans that it's in the blood. I'm not saying anyone's greater or lesser into that. However, I think the true Reds do know this is going to take time. It's not going to be instant. We might shed fans. We might shed a fan base. Listen, I think we've still got enough to fill that place, and 100,000 as well if it gets built, when it gets built, which I believe. Incidentally, that now takes me to the last part that I was going to say. The news of like this historic world venue is not going to get bulldozed. It'll get taken down. It might actually get taken down to about the same size as it was, like the 70s, 80s. And yeah, start using it as a ground. Let the ladies use it.
So we're going to have, I know you're not in the game, Simon, of making predictions. Robert very much is. I won't use predictions. What would a successful season be to you, Robert, this season?
Going back to what you said about transfers, we've done really well. We used to go back to chasing players for a whole transfer window. It took us 3 transfer windows to get Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, only to lose him.
Done well.
Yeah, how did that work out for us?
Exactly, but De Jong as well spent a whole transfer window trying to get him. Never got him. Dybala, same thing with him. And now we're starting to progress. We got Xerxes and Euro in the space of 10 days or something. Like
we're still looking for De Ligt, but De Ligt
have to move on.
But De Ligt's got a crazy.
De Ligt and Mazraoui.
But De Ligt's got a crazy weekly wage. I think 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, of course, I'll give you 700 grand. No, those days are gone. Buy well, plan well, So yeah, if you're asking me, how does my season go? Don't take as many tankings as we did through poor performances of our own making. Let's see some cohesion in there. Let's see a fitter, more consistent squad that isn't as injury prone. And basically, echo the same as I said to you at the start of last season. I just want to see the roots of change. I wouldn't actually really give a monkeys if we did finish 8th, but they were a better team and a better performance, and you start looking for that. Going in fits and starts, as much as I did enjoy the FA Cup win, I know that we dodged a bullet on that day by not getting battered, and I also know that by the grace of God we took an FA Cup. I don't want that for United. United, like anybody wants from the team, you want to see it be won, not be scroped. And it's not good enough for United to be that.
I think we won it comfortably, really. Like, obviously City played well, but I think we were the better. Not being bad, but I think we were the better team that game, and the scoreline proved it.
You're right, but our expectation going into it was that.
Every United fan thought we're going to get battered this game. We're going to get absolutely thumped. I mean, the game then we played Liverpool, that 4-3.
Yeah.
Nobody would have expected that, would they?
But that's what I mean.
That's the kind of game we want United to play.
That's what I'm saying. You want performances like that. You want your team to play like that. And if you lose, listen, I remember United going up with Fergie up to Newcastle and getting stuffed 5-0, and like, where the hell did that come from? These are the finite margins in football. So to expect it to be now almost instant to change, and you're working with those percentages, those percentiles, it's impossible. So that's why I say, look, keep it real. Let's just keep going in the right direction. We're no longer in reverse.
My prediction is... Well, not my prediction. What I hope for is, I think we need... I know we've had Bruno, but we need a proper leader. Not a new captain, but we need a leader, someone to stand up and actually, when their heads are down, just lift them up. And I mean, I know he's quite young, but I said it to him when I met him. I do see Kobe Mainoo being a captain within the next 3-4 years at United.
See why not?
I know that will.
Sometimes you lead by example. David Beckham did that. He didn't lead by screaming.
No.
That's going to get some slight opposition because people will remember Keano and Robbo, but players now are a little bit more too delicate for that.
Now.
It is an entirely different game, and someone like Kobe,
well, it's not
all day long
being a shouter. It's more he's so.
It's understanding his team.
He's so cool and calm, like not on and off the ball. Like he doesn't lose his head. He doesn't go for reckless challenges. He takes control of the ball on and off the ball. He's just one of those players that you want in your team for anyone.
To secure your thought there, son, and wrap it up. It doesn't work when I shout at you, but when I put my arm around you and bring you through, you're always all right, aren't you?
Right, well,
right. So there you go.
Behind the camera.
Top 4.
We'll see you very soon.
What will be, will be.
As you can see, Simon is donning the Manchester United version of the Centre Spot sweatshirt, available on the website. Like, share, subscribe.
Also available in Newton Heath with a bit of yellow and green.
We'll see you soon.
Tatty bye.
Bye-bye.